If God is all-powerful, why does He allow bad things to happen? So many of us wrestle with this question, including a coworker who recently told me her uncle stopped believing in God because his daughter was hit by a drunk driver and she became disfigured for life. His hurt and pain were real. I get why. And this is where so many of us struggle, because the image we have of God does not match the reality that we experience. If God's loving and He's all-powerful, why didn't He make that drunk driver to hit a tree instead of his daughter? One of our problems is we misunderstand God's goal for our lives. We think a good life is a life that is absent of hardship or trouble. If God sheltered us, we would never grow. We would never mature. We remain immature. We would never develop any depth of character. Character is developed and formed in hard places. You see, God's goal is not to give us a comfortable life necessarily, but to transform us to the likeness of Jesus. And this often involves for us to go through hard things, because we come to realize we are not in control. We don't have all the answers. We cannot control everything. But in these difficult places, God reveals Himself. We come to know God. We can either blame God and remain better, or we can accept that this was meant to come to us. It was meant to be part of our life story. And it has come to us by divine appointment. And God never wastes a hurt in our lives, that He doesn't allow things to come to us for no reason. But He is working out His purposes in our life. And let me give you a real life example. I knew a young man who was very handsome. And because he was so good looking, he was very arrogant and conceited. But over time, he lost his good looks. And he went through a deep depression because his face was his identity. And he felt like now nobody would really be interested in him because he's no longer handsome. But gradually, he accepted what happened to him and he began to move on. But as he went forward, because he was no longer so handsome, he became more humble. He became more compassionate. He developed kindness and he began to see people differently. And gradually, people warmed up to him. They didn't notice his looks, but what they did notice is character, who this young man is. But you see, what happened that seemingly was tragic ended up to be a blessing in disguise, because this man became someone different as a result of his loss. And one time he told me, David, if I would have remained the same, and I wouldn't want to be friend to who I used to be, because that person was so arrogant, was so condescending. But this is what happens. We usually tend to judge God too quickly. Yes, bad things do come to us, but comes to us through the hand of a loving God who is working out His purposes for our life. And that purpose is to make us to become more like Jesus. Because the more we become like Jesus, the happier we'll be in our own skin. We need to remember, again, he never wastes a hurt on us. And maybe those bad things didn't happen to us, but they happened for us, to change us. In those situations, if we have a right eyes to see, they are like mirrors that reveal to us where are our shortcomings, where are our issues. But we have to see them through the right lens. And one of the beautiful places where this is mentioned is in Psalm 77, verse 19. It says, your way was through the sea, your path through great waters, yet your footprints were unseen. We need to learn that God is leading us. He does have a plan for our lives, but his footprint is unseen. And we need to learn to see and trust these unseen footprints. In this way, we come to know him. A lot of people know a lot about God, but very few people actually know God. Most people only see what God does. But in Psalm 103, verse 7, it says, he made known his ways to Moses, his acts to the children of Israel. You see, the children of Israel saw God's acts, but he showed Moses why he does what he does. And maybe that's what he's doing with our lives. Maybe that's why he allows these things to come, because he goes through them with us. And if we have eyes to see, we gradually can come to know him and to learn about his ways. If you are hurting, you are not alone. Let's talk.